Hello, everybody. Welcome to Defining Conflicts. I am your host today, and this is our first ever episode. If you're interested in defense production, defense procurement, the defense industry, or global conflicts in general, feel free to give us a follow. Today, we're going to be covering defense production in Ukraine. More specifically, we're going to be covering a single Ukrainian system called the 2S-22 Bohdana. Now, in our introduction, we're going to go over what is the 2S-22 Bohdana, what systems is it comparable to, and what are some of its features. Now, the 2S-22 Bohdana is a Ukrainian 155mm gun. More specifically, it's a self-propelled gun or howitzer because it sits on a chassis that can move around independently from being towed. Now, it's going to come in at a cost of about $2.5 to $3 million, which is very competitive in today's market, and has a firing rate of about 5 rounds per minute, but that could change based on what type of autoloader it's using, experience of the crew, different things like that. Now, the firing range is up to 50 kilometers with rocket-assisted projectile rounds, and it's most comparable to the French-made Caesar howitzer, but it comes in at half the price. Some of these models have been tested with an autoloader like the Caesar has. Some of them don't have that on it. I've heard there's been a few types of autoloaders attempted. Some people in Ukraine, I didn't hear this from them directly, but they were saying that there were some early reliability issues with some of the autoloaders, but it seems like that's a kink that's largely been getting worked out. It's unclear how many of the current production models have it on there, whether it's become a standardized feature or whether it's still in testing phases. There have been some pictures of them with that and some pictures of them without that. Now, to go on the stat sheet of this, like we said earlier, it has a max firing range of 50 kilometers with those rocket-assisted projectiles. It's going to be more like 30 kilometers from more like normal artillery shells. It stores up to 20 shells in its compartments. It has a computerized firing system, which is really important for rapid emplacement, firing, and then exfil. That's stuff that people are not having to calculate by hand anymore. They just enter in the coordinates. The computer does that. It'll even elevate the gun to a certain position. Some of them have an autoloader, like I said earlier. It's unclear exactly what the future of the autoloaders will be. I would assume it's going to become a more standard option for it as long as they can fix some of those reliability issues. And the horsepower and range of the model really vary based on the truck chassis it sits on. Not all of them sit on the same truck chassis. So Ukrainians are using multiple truck chassis. The first ones were on KRAZ chassis. A lot of the more recent ones I've seen are on chassis by the Czech company Tatra. So that's the actual truck itself. Now we get into the part that I find more interesting and more relevant, which is production. What are the production rates of these systems? Where is it produced? What are the production problems they've been having? And then production financing. So in understanding the Bohdana's production history, we must go back to 2015. That's when its first design phase started. It did not fire a single shell until test trials in 2018. Production was practically non-existent between 2018 and 2022. There were 1 or 2 test models made, but outside of that, there was really no Bohdana fleet, and it did not enter service until the full-scale Russian invasion. And it didn't really start to pick up until about the end of 2023, when Ukraine had announced that they were producing 6 of these per month. Now, that's significant because that's 72 a year, which is a similar production rate to the French Caesar. By April of 2024, they had announced they had reached 10 per month, so 120 a year. And as of September, they were producing 16 per month, which represents a whopping 192 systems a year, making it one of the most produced artillery systems on the planet, and it could even be the most produced artillery system in terms of the monthly amount produced. The 2S-22 Bohdana originally started its life at the Kramatorsk heavy-duty machine tool building plant in Kramatorsk, Ukraine, but unfortunately it had to relocate due to the full-scale invasion in 2022. Kramatorsk just became too risky, and it actually lies not way too far from Bakhmut in the Donetsk region. It is within MLRS and short-range missile range, which is why the plant had to move. It did move to the western portion of Ukraine. It's not exactly public where the plant's locations are. However, it's likely it's in a dispersed location where the production processes were split up so that one strike would not disable the production capacity of the plant. It now exists in many smaller plants, is my understanding. And when we get to the issue of military financing in terms of defense production for Ukraine, I'm proud to announce that Denmark has purchased 18 Tu-22 Bohdanas for Ukraine from the Ukrainian defense industry, and those have already been delivered. Also, Ukraine has spent roughly $7 billion so far in 2024 in its domestic defense industry, a number it would like to increase. However, it does have some financing restrictions due to the war that don't allow it to fully utilize its defense industry on its own, which is estimated to be able to produce $20 billion worth of equipment a year, according to their just retired Minister of Strategic Industries, Alexander Commission. His role was just taken over by the leader of Ukroboronprom, which has now formed into UDI. It'll be interesting to watch these developments. However, other countries like Denmark stepping in is a huge step towards boosting the Ukrainian defense industry and Bohdana production. If this continues to happen, production figures could increase substantially for not only Bohdana, but other systems. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from it too. I might continue to do more videos like this in the future. If you have any suggestions, feel free to drop it in the comments. I might even release an email at some point where people can email me video ideas on what you'd like to see every week. Now, I am going to produce more videos in the future. I would like to do even longer form content that goes way more in depth. This is just my trial run at YouTube. I've never uploaded a YouTube video before. So I do think production quality and content will improve in the future. This is just something I put together pretty quickly that I think people might find interesting. And I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.